So imagine you walk up to your front door, and you pick up a cardboard box of groceries that you just ordered from an app maybe 10 minutes ago.
Right.
You grab the box, you head into your kitchen, and in that moment, your world feels incredibly contained.
Oh, absolutely. Very safe, very local.
Exactly. It feels entirely disconnected from, say, a cargo ship burning off the coast of Oman or a high-stakes political scandal unfolding in Kashmir.
Yeah, you don't connect those dots at all.
You don't. But the reality is that the cardboard box on your porch, the burning ship, and that political scandal, they are all tethered together by the exact same invisible, highly pressurized wires.
They really are.
And that is what we are getting into today. Welcome to today's deep dive. Our mission today is to show you exactly how those wires connect.
Yeah, and for this deep dive, we are pulling from a translated rapid-fire broadcast transcript from a program called Global News Pulse.
Right, the Crisis, Politics, and Sporting Triumphs edition.
That's the one. And, to your point about those invisible wires, when you consume a raw news feed like this, it rarely gives you the context to see them.
No, it just blasts you.
It just hits you with the raw data, yeah. One headline after another.
It is a complete sensory overload. I mean, you get international conflicts, sudden mass casualties, local weather emergencies, and then out of nowhere, you are getting European football scores.
Right, the transition is just jarring.
It really gives you this bizarre emotional whiplash. So we are going to slow the feed down today.
I think that's a great approach.
We want to extract the underlying architecture of this specific news cycle because to me, it's like a masterclass in how massive macro-level systemic shocks inevitably find their way into the micro level of our daily lives, like an ecosystem, A storm on one side of the world affects the climate on your street.
What's fascinating here is that the broadcast actually starts by documenting a shockwave at its absolute epicenter, which in this case is the Middle East.
Okay, let's get into it.
So the anchor reports new military strikes in southwest Iran, and that's followed rapidly by an attack on a cargo ship off the coast of Oman.
Right, heady stuff right out of the gate.
But the truly critical data point, the event that actually sends the shockwave outward, is the subsequent complete closure of the Strait of Hormuz.
Okay, I want to pause right there.
Sure.
Because look, if you are listening to this on your morning commute, it is so easy to hear the name of a distant waterway and just, tune it out as abstract geopolitics.
Oh, definitely. It sounds like something from a history textbook.
Exactly. Why does a strait closing thousands of miles away actually matter to your daily life?
My instinct is to think of global trade like the human circulatory system.
Okay, I like that analogy.
If the Strait of Hormuz is closed, a major artery is blocked. Right. And the system just has to work a little harder to pump blood through alternative routes.
Yeah.
It slows down, but it adapts.
Well, that is a comforting way to picture it, but the reality of global logistics is far less resilient.
Wait, really? It doesn't just reroute? No, it is not an artery with built-in bypass options. The Strait of Hormuz is a 21-mile-wide, single-lane bridge connecting the Persian Gulf to the Gulf of Oman and the open ocean.
Only 21 miles.
Just 21 miles. And a staggering percentage of the world's total energy supply is physically forced to pass through that specific bottleneck. There is no alternative circulatory route.
Wow. So when you say closed, you mean the supply chain doesn't just, take a detour. It hits a brick wall.
It completely paralyzes it. And the mechanism of failure here is fascinating because it is instantaneous.
How so? Like the moment the announcement is made.
Exactly. The moment that passage is deemed unsafe, maritime insurance premiums skyrocket. They go up to a point where sailing just becomes economically unviable.
Oh, because the insurance companies won't cover the risk.
Right. So ships currently inside the Gulf, they're trapped. Ships outside have to idle in the ocean. That immediate bottleneck creates a sudden deficit in global energy markets.
Which shoots fuel prices up worldwide.
Immediately. Which means the cost of transporting literally everything, from construction materials to those groceries you just ordered to your front door, increases almost overnight.
And it's not just abstract economics either. The broadcast specifically notes emergency sirens sounding in Bahrain, and it highlights a missing Indian sailor from that cargo ship attack.
Yeah, that detail is incredibly sobering.
It really grounds this for me. You have an individual just doing his job, participating in standard global commerce, and the fragility of this macro system suddenly sweeps him into a violent geopolitical flashpoint.
It strips away the illusion that global trade is just, a sterile exchange of goods. It relies on millions of real people navigating deeply unpredictable spaces.
Yeah, flesh and blood people.
Right. And that intentional geopolitical disruption in the Gulf, it actually sets the thematic stage for the next segment of the broadcast, which documents a series of unintentional systemic failures.
Right. The transition there is jarring. We move from a deliberate military closure to these sudden, almost random tragedies.
Yeah, the broadcast hits you with 3 distinct incidents.
So first, it reports 15 Indian tourists killed when a speedboat capsized in Vietnam, and that prompted a high-level probe.
Right.
Then, 27 people are reported dead in a Bangkok pub fire, which was triggered by a short circuit near the stage.
A terrible tragedy.
And finally, the sudden death of a 71-year-old U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina due to an illness.
So we are looking at 3 wildly different events in completely different spheres: international tourism, local nightlife, and American politics.
On the surface, they have absolutely nothing in common.
No, not at all.
But looking at the mechanics of the broadcast, my read is that all 3 are examples of what happens when we place this blind trust in the background infrastructure of our lives.
That's a really good way to put it.
It's like a sudden power outage in a grid we assume is perfectly modern. We get on a tourist boat or walk into a crowded venue, and we just operate under the assumption that someone, somewhere, has inspected the wiring.
We assume safety scales alongside commercial development.
Yeah.
And these events prove that, well, it often does not.
Right.
Take the Bangkok pub fire or the Vietnam speedboat capsize. When international tourism experiences a rapid economic boom, the financial incentive to operate more boats or open more venues, it vastly outpaces a local municipality's ability to keep up.
They can't hire inspectors fast enough.
Exactly. They can't hire the inspectors, they can't enforce building codes, or mandate safety protocols at the same speed.
So the commerce moves at broadband speed, but the regulation moves at the speed of, local bureaucracy.
Precisely. A short circuit near a stage is not just a freak accident in that context. It is the statistical inevitability of a strained infrastructure.
Wow. Statistical inevitability. That is grim.
And the political fallout is immediate, too. A speedboat capsize killing 15 foreign nationals instantly escalates from a local tragedy to an international diplomatic incident, hence the high-level probe.
It forces governments into a reactive scramble, which, that brings us to the sudden passing of the U.S. senator. Because how does the loss of one 71-year-old politician create that same kind of systemic scramble?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it's because the United States Senate operates mechanically like a highly precarious Jenga tower.
A Jenga tower.
Yeah, it is a system built entirely on delicate mathematics, committee assignments, and very strict rules of seniority.
So it is not just about replacing a single vote.
Far from it. When a senior figure suddenly passes away, you are pulling a foundational block out from the bottom of the tower.
Ah, I see.
It instantly alters partisan majorities. It shifts the balance of power in critical committees. And it forces both the state and the federal government to frantically re-stabilize their entire legislative agenda.
So, much like the infrastructure failures in Southeast Asia, it reveals how heavily our most important institutions rely on the assumption that nothing unexpected will happen today.
Yes, the fragility is baked into the system.
So we have been tracing these institutional vacuums on an international level, right? But the broadcast then hyper-focuses on India.
It does, yeah.
Showing us what happens when multiple systemic shocks hit a single government all at once. And here's where it gets really interesting.
The broadcast details a scenario of intense, compounded crises.
The setup is just striking. You have the Indian Prime Minister returning from a 3-nation diplomatic tour, Indonesia, Australia, and New Zealand.
Right, a major international trip.
So he is stepping out of the highly controlled, polished environment of state dinners and international handshakes and landing right back into a localized pressure cooker.
A literal and figurative storm.
Literally. The weather department has issued a 4-day heavy rain alert for North and East India, while Jammu and Kashmir are already dealing with devastating cloudbursts and landslides.
And critically, the physical environment is not the only thing fracturing.
No, the political environment is unraveling at the exact same time. The broadcast notes that in Jammu and Kashmir, tensions are boiling just ahead of Martyrs' Day. Prominent leaders have been placed under house arrest, and there are massive allegations of horse trading involving crores of rupees with the alleged goal of toppling the government.
Okay, I need to pause here for a critical piece of framing.
Sure, go ahead.
For you listening, it is vital to understand that our goal is simply to deconstruct how these intersecting events create administrative gridlock based on the provided broadcast.
Right, we're just looking at the report.
Exactly. We are entirely neutral here. We are not endorsing any of these political viewpoints or validating the allegations of horse trading. We are simply examining the systemic impact of these reported events happening simultaneously.
I appreciate that context. It's important. So, looking at the mechanics of this, my instinct is to view it as a severe resource allocation problem.
Oh, you mean?
Well, if you have cloudbursts and landslides, emergency management needs helicopters, road clearing equipment, and money.
Yes, immediately.
But the political crisis is draining the attention of the exact people who sign the checks. How does a government manage that extreme whiplash?
It goes much deeper than just distracted leadership, actually. In emergency management, this specific overlap is known as a threat multiplier.
Threat multiplier.
Yeah, a natural disaster like a landslide physically isolates communities, it destroys roads, and cuts communication lines.
Right.
To solve that, you require absolute, unified administrative coordination at the local and regional levels. Everyone has to be on the exact same page.
Which is exactly what vanishes during a political crisis.
Yes. When prominent leaders are under house arrest and a government's survival is allegedly being negotiated in back rooms, the administrative apparatus paralyzes.
Wow. So the people on the ground don't even know what to do.
Local officials who are supposed to be coordinating disaster relief are suddenly unsure of who they even report to, or if their current directives will even be valid tomorrow.
That is terrifying.
The severe weather and the political instability feed off one another, making both exponentially harder to resolve.
That is a staggering level of macro-level paralysis. But the broadcast doesn't let the listener off the hook there, does it?
No, it brings it much closer to home.
It takes this entire theme of systemic fragility and trust breakdown, and it forces it right down onto the micro level. We move from governmental gridlock down to consumer vulnerability.
The Delhi e-commerce racket.
Yes. This segment gave me serious pause. So, what does this all mean for the listener? We hear that a major racket was busted in Delhi, where expired food products were being given brand new fraudulent labels and then sold off to consumers through various e-commerce platforms.
It's a huge violation.
We were just talking about the blind trust we place in a pub's wiring or a tourist boat's capacity. But this feels like an even more visceral, intimate violation of trust, because it is food crossing the threshold of your own home.
This raises an important question about the vulnerabilities of the modern convenience economy.
Yeah, how does this even happen?
Well, for centuries, human commerce was built on physical intuition. You walked into a market, you inspected the produce, you smelled it, and you looked the vendor in the eye.
Right, you could tell if something was off.
That physical proximity was our primary defense mechanism.
But the moment we outsource that to an app,
We lose it.
Yeah.
We lose the ability to physically verify anything until it is already in our kitchen. We are essentially forced to trust the algorithm.
we are just trusting a picture on a screen.
Exactly. And bad actors deeply understand the blind spots of algorithmic trust. E-commerce platforms scale their businesses by using digital verification.
Like tracking numbers and stuff.
Yeah, they check IP addresses, they verify digital payment methods, and they manage massive databases of inventory codes. But an algorithm cannot physically inspect a cardboard box sitting in a warehouse to see if a fraudster just slapped a new barcode over an expiration date.
Because the sheer volume of goods moving through the supply chain makes physical oversight completely impossible.
Exactly the same way a rapidly growing tourist city cannot inspect every single speedboat. The bad actors in this Delhi racket exploited the gap between digital speed and physical reality.
They weaponize our desire for convenience.
They did. It proves that whether we are talking about the Strait of Hormuz or your digital grocery cart, whenever a system optimizes for maximum speed and scale, it inevitably sacrifices security.
Wow. Okay, so if you are listening to this broadcast in real time, at this point, you are likely overwhelmed.
It's a lot of heavy news.
It is an unrelenting wave of anxiety. We have covered military strikes choking global trade, fatal infrastructural collapses, political vacuums in the U.S., threat multiplying crises in Kashmir, and literally poisoned food on the digital marketplace.
For them, the broadcast does a hard pivot.
A total 180. It transitions entirely away from crisis, moving into culture and international sports.
Right.
It covers the passing of legendary playback singer Janaki, noting she was given a state funeral with full honors.
It's a huge cultural moment.
Huge, and from there we are suddenly on the manicured grass courts of a Grand Slam tennis tournament. The defending men's champion wins again, and a new champion is crowned in women's singles.
Which is a complete shift in tone.
And finally, a football update. England defeats Norway 2-1 to reach the semifinals, setting up a massive match against Argentina. My first reaction to this whiplash was to assume it is just a cynical broadcasting trick, you know?
Like, end on a lighter note so the viewer doesn't turn off the TV in despair.
Exactly. Give them a palate cleanser. Why do broadcasts always end this way?
Well, it's easy to view it as a superficial palate cleanser, but psychologically it serves a profound societal function. Think about the defining characteristic of every single crisis we have unpacked so far today.
Unpredictability.
Yes.
We don't know when the Strait will reopen or how the Senate will rebalance or when the landslides in Kashmir will stop.
They're open-ended, chaotic events that remind us we have very little actual control over our environment. The human brain struggles to process chronic, unresolved anxiety.
So sports are the antidote.
Sports provide the exact antidote to that.
Because a tennis match is a closed system.
It is the ultimate closed system. The court has physical boundaries that do not change. The players operate under a strict, unbending set of rules.
Nobody is changing the rules halfway through a set.
Exactly. The scoring is completely objective. And most importantly, there is a definitive, undisputed ending. England scores 2 goals, Norway scores 1, the whistle blows, and the outcome is finalized.
Oh, wow. That makes a lot of sense. It provides the cognitive closure that geopolitics completely denies us.
It grounds society when everything else feels uncertain. It anchors us. And the coverage of Janaki's passing functions similarly, though on an emotional level.
How so?
While the sudden death of a politician creates anxiety and a frantic scramble for power, the state funeral of a beloved cultural icon does the opposite.
It brings people together?
It unites people. It provides a shared space for collective mourning and reminds the society of its shared cultural fabric, even when its political or physical infrastructure feels like it is failing.
That is really beautiful, actually. We really have mapped out a massive ecosystem today.
We covered a lot of ground.
We started at a macro-level choke point in the Middle East, looking at how the closure of a 21-mile waterway can instantly paralyze global logistics and trap international citizens. Then we broke down the mechanics of systemic failure, whether it is a short circuit in a Bangkok pub, a strained tourism market in Vietnam, or the delicate partisan math of the U.S. Senate.
We saw how those failures compound into threat multipliers, using the overlapping weather and political crises in Jammu and Kashmir as a prime example of administrative gridlock.
And then we pulled that thread all the way down to our own front porches, exploring how the sheer scale of the e-commerce economy creates algorithmic blind spots that bad actors use to bypass our physical intuition.
The grocery fraud.
Exactly. And finally, we explored how a society processes all that chaos by seeking cognitive closure through the strict rules of sports and shared cultural moments. For you listening, we hope this deep dive changes the way you consume the news.
It's all connected.
It is not about memorizing the individual tragedies or the football scores. It is about recognizing the mechanisms connecting them all. Being truly well-informed is about seeing those hidden threads.
And as you go about your day, I want to leave you with a specific concept to turn over in your mind.
Okay, what is it?
We spent a lot of time analyzing the physical mechanics of the Strait of Hormuz and how choking a single geographic lane stalls the entire global engine. But we operate in a digital reality now.
We do.
So I want you to ask yourself, what is the digital equivalent of the Strait of Hormuz?
Oh, that is a terrifying question.
What is the single invisible digital choke point that our modern convenience economy is entirely dependent on?
Like, is it a specific cluster of cloud servers?
Or a localized satellite network, a centralized payment verification gateway? Think about the systems you blindly trusted today, and then ask yourself, what exactly happens to your daily life, your grocery deliveries, your communication, and your safety if that digital strait is suddenly closed tomorrow?
Because if this broadcast has taught us anything, it is that the infrastructure we rarely think about is usually the only thing keeping the chaos at bay. Thanks for diving deep with us today.